Hello, Binghamton University. My name is Eric Reineking, and I'm a junior pursuing a double major in geology and mathematics. Today, I'm going to be teaching you guys how paleontologists prepare a fossil specimen to be professionally photographed. This isn't as easy a process as I'm sure many people think, but once you get the hang of it, you're able to produce professional grade photos. There are many different steps that are taken in order to ensure the photos that we take are optimal and can be used in publications. In short, the entire process entails smoking the specimen, taking raw photos of the specimen, and editing the photos in a software. So starting with the fossil smoking, here we're going to have a cast mold of our fossil specimen so that we don't damage the true specimen. And here we're going to have a tube filled with an ammonium chloride powder. And when it is burned, we can examine one of its weird properties. So here we're just going to apply heat throughout the end of the tube. It's important that in this stage you move the tube up and down and twist the tube so that you aren't applying the heat to one spot on the glass for too long. Then after doing this for a while, we're going to notice some smoke is starting to come out of the tube. Once we notice a significant amount of smoke, we turn off the blowtorch and prepare to smoke the fossil. So next we take the tube and we puff the smoke onto the fossil, attempting to try and place an even coat of smoke on the fossil. Now in just a second here, we're going to see another angle of what our setup looks like. So all of this is taking place under a fume hood to avoid the smoke escaping into the rest of the laboratory. We also have to wear a mask and gloves so that we don't injure ourselves. The mask's true purpose, though, is to ensure that there's no moisture that touches the ammonium chloride powder. Any moisture that touches the powder will cause the powder to dissipate. So in order to avoid accidentally breathing on the specimen, we have to wear masks. So in the end, when we want to remove the powder from the specimen, we end up just breathing onto the specimen in order to get moisture on it, causing the powder to dissipate. Just a cool thing that we notice sometimes as well is that on more humid days, it can be very hard to complete this process as the moisture in the air will sometimes cause the powder to dissipate when we don't want it to. Now we will begin moving on to the actual photographing of the specimen. So here we have our camera setup where we take our photos. We placed a dime next to the specimen to use this as a scale. Most people use a ruler as their scale bar, but as long as you use something with a known length, it can be used as a scale. And here we have the adjustable lighting. This is important as we don't have any natural light in the room or room lights turned on. We just use the lamps to adjust the amount of light. And here you can see a view of the specimen through the camera lens. So this is what our finished photo will most likely look like. We will do some adjusting of the camera height and the surrounding lights in order to ensure that our photos are ready to be taken. And then once we are done taking photos of our specimen, we can move on to photoshopping and editing of the photo. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is make our photo be in black and white. And to do this, we're going to add a new layer, an adjustment layer to be exact, and then we're going to click on black and white, which makes our photo now appear in black and white. Now the next step we're going to use is the dodge tool. And what the dodge tool does is it brightens up certain aspects of our image. So as you can see in the image, as we apply the dodge tool, like at the top of the screen, some of the areas that are darker are starting to become a bit brighter. And the reason that we do this is because we want to create a good contrast between the different parts of the specimen. So now we are just going to keep using the dodge tool on the darker parts of the specimen to try and brighten it up and create a larger contrast, which will in turn make the photo more detailed. So we're going to keep applying the dodge tool to the different parts of the specimen. And just to show you guys a little something, we're going to apply the dodge tool right in the center, and we're going to make a nice big white circle right in the center. We might even overdo it a little bit just to show how much the contrast can change. Now we're going to move to the burn tool. And what the burn tool does is the exact opposite of the dodge tool in that it darkens the aspects of the image. And again, we do this to create enough contrast so that we can see the smaller details within our fossil specimen. And now we're just going to go back and forth between the dodge tool and the burn tool until we think that our specimen is up to standard, and it'll eventually be ready to move on to the next step. It's very important that we don't overuse the burn or the dodge tools so that the image isn't too bright or too dark in any way. We want the perfect balance of light and dark in our image to ensure that we have the best possible photo for publication. Now we are going to move on to the final step, which is preparing the image with a background and a scale bar. Funnily enough, this can all be done in PowerPoint. So first we're going to go find our image in our files, and we're going to insert that into PowerPoint. Now the first thing we want to do is remove the background from our image. So on PowerPoint, it'll give us this whole big area, and the things in purple are things it wants to delete, so we want to make sure that there are things in our image that we want to keep. So we're going to use the keep tool in order to ensure that the dime stays in our image and it's not removed as a part of the background. And even parts of the actual fossil were cut off by PowerPoint, so we're going to use this tool in order to ensure that all parts of the fossil specimen that we want will be in our photo. And then once we think our photo is good, we can keep changes and then remove the background completely. Now we're going to add a background of our own. So we're going to insert a text box and we're going to fill the color to black. So now this will be our background. And now here we do have to reorder the objects. So we're going to move the photo we want to the front and then the one we want to the back. And here now we can use the black background as our full background. And the next step we want is to include our scale bar. So we're going to use the rectangle shape and we're going to highlight over our dime, which our dime is of known length. Typically for scale bars, we want to use something that we know the length of, which in this case, a dime is 17.91 millimeters. And we're going to make this visible. Perfect. And then we can remove the dime from our photo now that we have the scale bar used. So we can crop that out. And now here we have our fossil specimen with our black background, scale bar, and a full photo ready for publication.